What is going on, dudes? Lady dudes, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I've got a pretty cool deck profile for you. It's not the most roguish deck, the most, crazy out of this world deck profile you've ever seen. It's MEKK-KNIGHT Invoked. It's found itself in and out of formats over the last couple of years here, but it's a really cool deck, and it's something very different than I'm used to playing. Yeah, I want to show you guys the list I've been messing around with as of now. It's pretty cool. It's a really fun deck. Usually you like to opt second, and you're probably just trying to, you're just trying to rip through a board, or you're trying to use hand traps to like make sure their board is like not that strong to begin with, so you don't have much to rip through. And you're either trying to OTK, or you're trying to just dismantle a board to the point of not being able to be reassembled, or you're trying to assemble your own board that's going to keep them off of anything they want to do. So without further ado, I don't want to waste too much time. Let's jump right into the list. We have my favorite card in the entire deck. 3 copies of Alistair, the Invoker. He's really amazing. I mean, he's Stratos. I love his design. He's one of my favorite card designs ever. I love spellcasters. They're really cool. He's pretty much just going to get you Invocation, which is your polymerization spell card. Right there, he's really good. That's all he is. Pretty much gets you there. And then he has another effect where you can discard him from hand as a quick effect to give a fusion monster you control 1,000 attack points, but that doesn't really come up all that often. It can, though. Then for the MEKK-KNIGHT stuff, we've got 3 Purple Nightfall. This is by far and away the best one. He has a quick effect to banish himself to search you another MEKK-KNIGHT monster. And then obviously the same MEKK-KNIGHT clause, where if there are 2 cards in the same column, anywhere on the field, you, your opponent, wherever, you can just special summon him to that column. And he's 2,500 beater, so he is by far and away the best one. So you play him at 3. I play 2 copies of MEKK-KNIGHT Blue Sky. This is like the second best one. So he has that same clause to special summon in a column with 2 cards in it. But when he's special summoned, you get to search MEKK-KNIGHT monsters up to the number of cards your opponent had in that column. So if your opponent had 2, or God forbid 3, and you special summon him there, you're going to get to search 3 cards, 2 cards, 1 card, none cards, depending on how many your opponent had in those zones. And worst case scenario, you're just putting a 2,000 beat stick on the board. But he's really good. He's not as good to start with as Purple Nightfall, so I usually like to go purple, search blue, and then special blue to get an extra search, and you just plus a ton off that and put a ton of pressure on the board. And then to finish out the MEKK-KNIGHTs, I play 1 Indigo Eclipse and 1 Red Moon. Indigo Eclipse is a spicy one. He makes hands where you open multiple MEKK-KNIGHTs way better, just because his effect lets him move a MEKK-KNIGHT card. Is it MEKK-KNIGHT specifically? Yeah, so he only moves so he can move himself out of his own, so you can special summon another one. Because normally there's not going to be 2 columns in a duel that both have 2 cards in them. So usually you're gonna have to special summon one, move himself, so you can special summon another one from your hand, and it just allows you to get on the board a little quicker. And which is pretty good. So, and he's 2,400 beat stick. And then Red Moon. The only reason I'm really playing Red Moon is just so when I do resolve a Blue Sky for 2, I don't want to go for another Purple Nightfall if I already used one that turn, because what's the point? I want to grab an Indigo and a Red Moon, and really just I wanted one more name. And he also has another effect where you can banish a MEKK-KNIGHT from your graveyard to pop a monster that's in the same column as him. So he has some removal ability, and he's big. They're all huge, and you just like to spam the board with them, and then just remove a couple cards, and then go into battle phase and really do the most of the damage you're trying to do. So that's good. That's pretty much it for the real monsters in the deck. You don't really play a ton. It's fine. For the spell cards, though, we play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Did I say spell cards? For hand traps, sorry. 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Nothing crazy here. 3 copies of Gamma, and of course the Driver. You got to play him. This card's the most powerful hand trap in the game. Just people always fear it's not great if you're playing a going first deck, and also you have the brick of Driver, so people fear away from this. But it's too strong for me not to to warrant me not playing. And also this deck can also take advantage of the brickiness / past turn 1 utility of the card. I'm on 3 Ghost Ogre as well. I already have Monster Negation, so I was deciding whether to put this or Veiler at 3, but I decided to put Ogre at 3 just because like Veiler and like Gamma and Ash usually are used to negate monster effects, so I was like, I already have like Monster Negation like on deck, so why not, if I was gonna bump one of these up to 3, because I had like one more slot left in the deck, why not make it Ogre, get actual removal. And Guard Dragon plays is really good against Electromite, is pretty good, and it just has its utility against like every deck. And then 2 copies of Effect Veiler. This could be Impermanence. I decided not to play Impermanence in this build. I have Impermanence. I just decided to play this because it's 2 more copies of a light monster I can get engraved before my first turn, so that I can make a Macabre play. And it's another reason why I liked Ogre at 3 as well. Between Ogre, Gamma, Veiler, you've got a ton of lights that you could put engraved, and the MEKK-KNIGHTs to make a Macabre play. And that's pretty much it for all the monsters, period. Moving on to the spell cards. We'll start with Magical Meltdown. This is just a, this is literally just like your searching field spell. It searches for Alistair, then Alistair searches for your invocation, and Terraforming, obviously, just for consistency. Moving on, 3 copies of Invocation. I couldn't find my 3rd copy of Invocation. I've been testing with this deck online, but I swore I had a 3rd one, and I need to either find it or grab a 3rd one. But it's a really good card. You can fuse from like either field or yours or your opponent's graveyards, which is really clean. So if your opponent ashes you, you can make like a Purgatrio using their ash. If they impermanence you, like, or not impermanence you, if they Veiler you, you can make a Macabre off of their Veiler, stuff like that. It's really, really good. And then it also has the effect where it lets you get back an Alistair by shuffling this card into the deck. It gets you the banished Alistair that you banished to get your fusion monster out. 2 copies of World Legacy's Memory. This is the only World Legacy card I play in here. I know there's a couple of them that actually have some utility purposes, but I just felt, for the most part, if I wasn't in a specific situation where I was going into the MEKK-KNIGHT Link monster to search them, I didn't really want to see any of them, except for this one. This just gets you to your MEKK-KNIGHT monsters. I don't play the biggest MEKK-KNIGHT package. I've seen builds of this that play like upwards of like 10 to 12 MEKK-KNIGHTs, but I'm only playing 7, so I'm playing a smaller package, so this card lets me get to them a little quicker, and I don't have to rely on columns, and it just gets your engine live, which is pretty cool. And it's like a follow-up play, sort of like your opponent sees what you do. Like your opponent could stop everything you do, and this could just be the last card in your hand, and you just at least get a MEKK-KNIGHT play going, which is pretty nice. Next up, 3 Super Polymerization. This is like an anti-meta, sort of like going second deck. Like I feel like you have to play Super Poly. It's just too good right now. I mean, it really is. It's so strong. There's not really much to say here. You can use your opponent's monsters to make some of your invoked stuff. So even if your opponent isn't playing a deck that actually supports like making like the generic Super Poly targets, if they just put a light on board or a fire, like if you're playing like Dracos and they put like an Ignis Heat on board, you can just like use an Alistair and their Ignis Heat to make like Purgatrio. If they put a Majesty Maiden, you can make like Ragin and other stuff like that. They just put anything in the extra deck, you can make an Elysium using their monster, which is pretty good. So, you know, even though it's not the most optimal way to use it, it can still have utility even against decks that don't, that you wouldn't think are like the best decks to use it against. For some more going second cards, 2 Instant Fusion. This can be a combo extender, but usually it's just like a 1,000 Ice Restrict and steal a monster. Nothing crazy there. Just a nice like versatile card depending on what situation you're in. 2 Mind Control, just a very powerful card. I mean, stuff that's just so good. I mean, you just steal something, fuse it off, or link it off, or whatever. It's just good. It's just a good going second card. Thought about playing it at 3, but I just thought it might be a little bit of overkill to just play it at 3. But those 2 cards are like either bait out negates, or they are just going to rip your opponent's board apart. And the last 2 cards I play in the deck are 2 copies of Pot of Desires. I'm on 3 Invocation and 3 Alistair and 3 of like the actual engine stuff. And other than that, The only card that's like tough to hit is if like the only card that actually hurts is if you like banish Driver and then you happen to draw into a Gamma later in the duel. Like that's like worst case scenario. Other than that, like the only way this card punishes you is if you actually banish like all 3 Alistair, all 3 Invocation. But other than that, like just the +1 is actually super nice because you're going to need to like start whittling away your opponent's resources, taking 1-for-1s, outing their monsters, and you need to like end up winning the advantage game in the end to be able to finish them off. So 2 Desires I thought was pretty good. 3's too many for me in this build for a 40 card deck. That's 40 exactly, which is pretty cool. And then we'll move to the extra deck. So let's start with the fusions. For the invoke stuff, 2 Invoke MEKK-KNIGHT. Sorry about the rarity on this one. This one does not look as good as this one, but still, 2 Invoke MEKK-KNIGHT. Once you break your opponent's board, you're trying to just like set up your own mini control board, and hopefully with their dwindled resources, they won't be able to keep up with like MEKK-KNIGHT, with like your board. 1 Purgatrio, 1 Ragin, and 1 Elysium. Nothing crazy here. Like Ragin's there because he's a possible instant fusion target. Other than that, he doesn't really come up. But Purgatrio, you use him to kill people, and if a lot of decks like to Ash you, and you have Ash, so making him is fairly easy. And also Sally's put Fires in the Grave, and Elysium is really nice. Like if you can make him, you probably make him because he's just gonna like get rid of a monster, and he's a 3200 beat stick, so he puts pressure on your opponent as well. Next up, like the generic super poly targets, we've got Starving Venom, Predaplant Dragus Stapelia, Mud Dragon of the Swamp, and then we'll throw them up here. Duplexer Chimera. Duplexer Chimera, just like I'm already just getting ahead of the train. Like it won't be too long until Marincess is released. We're gonna have Adignisters in the far future. We have like Code Talkers, possibly playable rogue deck. You could see. So I want to play this instead of a Violet Chimera, just because I think it has a little more versatility. It may not be as high ceiling as big and powerful, but still it's pretty good. And then 1000 Strict is just your instant fusion. We're going second deck, so most of the time you're just instant fusing into him and then trying to either take a monster your opponent controls or bait a negate at the very least, and it's good. And then for the links, we actually don't play a ton of links here. We just don't have room. Like how many fusions we're playing. We're playing 10 fusions, so we only have 5 copies for links. Start with Salamangreat Great Almirage. This is just for Alistair the Invoker. You normal summon him, you link him off because you're gonna invocation. You can fuse from Grave, so like it doesn't matter. You might as well get the extra link body on board. So this just literally makes an extra link material out of your normal play. So just raises the ceiling of the deck just a little bit. 1 Alistair, the Invoker of Madness. 1 MEKK-KNIGHT of the Morning Star. This card actually like never comes up. I'm not playing a build that like plays a ton of like any like of the actual utility World Legacy cards. I mean, I guess I could just search a memory off this if I wanted a MEKK-KNIGHT follow-up play. But like I'm really not playing like any of the other cards. I'm not playing the Trap, I'm not playing Succession, or any of the like other extenders. So like that's kind of weird, but I don't know. It's okay. I haven't got into him yet. I haven't played this deck a ton though, so maybe he would come up. I don't know. I don't know what I'd necessarily play instead of him. Alistair the Invoker Magnus, he's like a pretty standard play with like Salamangreat Great Almirage. Just look at him because he's completely generic. It's pretty cool. So this card right here, this is the Psyframe Lord Lambda. I think you absolutely have to play him in this deck just because sometimes your opponent's going to try and make you go first. And if you can make a play to just make Lambda because you opened like Gamma, that can get you there. Like literally a Lambda plus a Gamma in hand can like win you a duel. Like Gamma plus maybe one other hand trap. That will completely stun your opponent for a turn, and then you will be able to actually do things on the next turn. I actually have one. I just have, Mike is holding it right now. We actually like bought a set together, and so he took the Lambda, like not to keep, but we were like, here, you hold the Lambda for now. I don't know what to use it for. And I just couldn't get it from him in time to do this deck profile. But yeah, Psyframe Lambda, Lord Lambda. And the last card I have here is Nightmare Unicorn. I mean, this is just basic removal. Like, you go through a board, like, you do that, and if you weren't able to clear it, there's one more thing, and it's crucial. It needs to be cleared. You can just make a Unicorn play. Doesn't come up all that often. You don't really love to discard in this deck or anything like that, but still, it can come up. And so, there's that. One thing I would like to maybe try and make room for, see, the extract is, like, so tight in this deck, is, like, but I'd maybe try and make room for like the Blackluster Soldier Link. I don't have him because he's like, he went up to like $50 from $15, so it'll be a minute before I decide to go for him. But that could be something, because like you're already playing the MEKK-KNIGHTs, you have easy ways of getting level 7s or higher on board, and he's just such an imposing card in the battle phase. And if you can make him with that can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects, pretty spicy. But yeah, the deck's been pretty good for me so far. Usually you see builds that are like 45 cards, but I'm like a freak, like OCD. I love 40 card decks. They just like satisfy me when you can get a deck down to 40 cards and it like works. So I don't know. But that's pretty much it for the deck profile here, guys. Let me know what you think. I'm not a seasoned veteran at Invoked. This is like of an early build for me, but it's been working pretty good. I've been pretty successful with the deck, dueling online and stuff, and I almost have all the cards. I just need like the invocation and get the Lambda, and then I should be good to go there. But it's a cool deck. It's outside of my normal wheelhouse. Usually I play like control type decks, and I even was looking at possibly trying to build like an Invoked deck that can actually go first. So you're not playing MEKK-KNIGHTs, you're not playing all these like going second cards, like, you know what I mean, like Mind Control and Instant Fusion and stuff. But I'm not entirely sure what exactly works well enough with him with like the Invoked engine, because the Invoked engine kind of eats your normal summon. So you really have to combine it with something that doesn't use the normal. But that's in testing. I'm figuring that stuff out. As far as this goes, guys, let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts down below on all this stuff, and I guess I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. You know, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. I got some more deck profiles coming. Definitely have some stuff coming in Chaos Impact. I really want to build Hakai's. I want to get Fire Fist up and running. It's just their stuff is like so expensive right now. What else? Tenyis are getting support. I'm going to build Arrow Mages out of Chaos Impact. So I got a bunch of stuff coming. I'm trying to get a cool Pacifist deck profile for you too. So stay tuned for that, guys. I'm rambling too much. Thank you so much for watching, as always. And peace. I love you.